Happy morning. It's Monday morning for us. When you're listening to this, it'll probably be Tuesday or whatever day of the week, but happy day. Welcome back to the Unique Beauty and Meditation Podcast. I'm your host, Karen Slack. I'm here with my good friend, Danielle Graham, and we are back to our regularly scheduled content, and we are journeying up through our last two chakras in the next few weeks, talking about the brow chakra today. Before we get into that, I would love to just remind everybody that any of the tips, tricks, or ideas shared on this podcast are meant for um, energetic and spiritual purposes only. If you have any mental or physical health concerns, please reach out for a physical or mental health professional. That helps with your physical and mental wellness as a whole. We're here to support you, so if you have any questions, reach out to us. Um, I am your spiritual, energetic life coach. I feel like there's a beautiful wholeness to energetic and spiritual self-care. And I love that I get to help introduce people to things like energy work and meditation and intuitive contemplation and things like EFT tapping and what have you. So that's me. Enough about me. Good morning, Danielle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Would you like to
Good.
reintroduce yourselves to everybody, being it's been a week or so?
Sure. I am Danielle Graham, owner of Divine Clarity. I'm an intuitive medium and a card reader, tarot, cartomancy, oracle cards. I have just recently started with pet Reiki and pet bereavement courses because I find a lot of people lately want to connect with their pets, and I'm just loving that and wanting to help people heal and feel better moving forward in their life.
Very cool. I love that. I love the addition of the pet care to it because I think there isn't a nice outlet for that that feels like it's something that healing process in that sometimes is stunted because we feel like we shouldn't, or there's all these preconceived notions about it. So I love that you're busting out of those notions and into that field. So
Very true. Thank you.
congratulations. So we are taking a journey up through the chakras, and we've had some pretty powerful conversations from our root to our throat already. So if you have not joined us on this journey, we have had, I think, 7 different episodes so far. We started out talking about chakras as a whole, and then we journeyed up through the root, the sacral, the solar, the heart, and the throat. And now we're hanging out here at the brow, and we're discussing that today. So we would love to know for you what you're thinking so far, how this information is resonating with you, and what you're enjoying about it. What aha moments have you had along the way? I know that we've had a few aha moments. I guess I can't speak for Danielle, but I know for myself, each time we talk about this, there's pieces that fit even further into place about me. So even if you've listened to these episodes once, feel free to maybe mark your calendar and in springtime, journey through them again because you're a different person then and you may find different information that resonates with you. So yeah, let's talk about the brow.
What a
Um,
great reminder. Just saying.
Absolutely. Like things like that. Like I always like the intention of doing things like that in my own life. But if I don't actually put it in my schedule, I'm never going to remember. So
Same.
mark it in your schedule now. So let's talk about the brow. Help me out with this, Danielle. If I forget something or you want to add something to it, because I feel like for some reason when I connect with the brow today, I feel like I need a little support in that. But our brow chakra hangs out up here, like basically everything right here within our head. And I feel like this is our vision center. This is where we connect with our truth, our imagination, our intuition, our clairvoyance happens here. Our mental wellness and mental health happens here. So both the positive mental clarity as well as when we're struggling with our mental health happens here. Um, a connection with our intention and the direction in which our thought patterns are going, which I guess that would lean into that familial origin family thought pattern now that I think about it. Um,
It would come.
and those notions of, I guess, finding out who we are. I guess the whole notion that's coming to mind now is that finding out what our true thoughts are within a collective thought. I feel like happens here, maybe. Did I say imagination?
I don't think you did, no.
Imagination, visualization, things like that all happen in the brow chakra. I know
Mm.
for me, imagination is a huge part of my brow chakra and actually becomes a tool to help me connect with my intuition and to connect with things like guided meditation and what have you. So
Yeah,
that's what I've
that's
got for the
very
brow chakra.
difficult for me. I like that you bring that up because imagining things, visualizing things was always, still kind of is, but much more difficult for me. So that's why I leaned into guided meditations and things like that, because it kind of told me what to think of. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. But I think the more I personally practiced with that, the better my imagination and visualization skills became.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we sacrifice as adults. And so often, how many times have we heard, is it imagination or is it intuition?
Yeah.
What if it's both? What if they're actually really beautifully connected? And there's
Mhm.
some of that childlike imagination that actually can be transferred into our intuition as an adulthood in connecting with our intuition, understanding it. Um, Also, when I first started meditating, I really had to differentiate between seeing it and knowing the details in my mind. Because when I first started meditating and you'd start listening to these other intuitives and psychics and mediums and what have you, and they're like, I see this, I see this, I see this, and I'd be like, I don't see squat, and I found
Yeah.
myself so frustrated. So I feel like we get to make that differentiation between maybe it's not actually physically seeing it, but it's knowing the details in your mind. So when something comes up into your mind, like you're imagining this room and you know that the walls are white and you know that there's a couch in there, but you may not actually physically see it. Does that make sense?
Yes, but could this be where strength and weaknesses come into play? Because my husband used to tell me when my office was in the house, not that he listened, but he can hear little things here and there. And I would always say, I feel da, 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 da. And he's like, you really got to stop saying I feel. And I'm like, but I feel it. And he's like, but you say it 100 times. I'm like, but that's what I'm getting. Very rarely would I say I see. Now I think I do more than I did then,
Yep.
but it was always I feel. So I just feel like that was my stronger Claire, my stronger sense.
You really tried not to say it right there, didn't you?
I know, because he's traumatized me.
Well, and you bring up a great point that I feel like we each have a sense or maybe even a chakra that is more dominant.
Yeah.
For me, I'd say it's definitely sacral. But let me travel down that road a little bit more. We've got our solar, our sacral, and our root chakra, which we did in the beginning. And then we've got our heart, and then we've got our throat, our brow, and our crown. And so the lower three are our physical body chakras, and we've got our heart, and then the upper three are our spiritual body chakras. What if we have a dominant chakra in our physical body chakra and a dominant chakra in our spiritual body chakra?
Oh,
So
interesting.
then we lean into things like I feel versus I see, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just a,
see, I thought you were just going to go down the path of maybe some of us are just more physical oriented than we are spiritual, not spiritual oriented, but higher chakra oriented, let's say. Because, some people you'll hear like, oh, this person is very grounded and this person is very airy fairy. So I feel like I hang out a lot in those lower three chakras because I do feel like I'm very grounded and very present here in the physical world. And it's actually more work for me to go into that airy fairy space, that spiritual space.
yeah. No, you make a good point. I'd have to say I'm definitely more emotional and spiritual versus physical.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I can see that we have a tendency to lean into a specific spot. And if we have a tendency to be more emotional and physical, then do we say I feel? Whereas if we're emotional and spiritual, do we say something else like I see? Hmm. I don't know. I feel like I'm not exact. There feels like there's a pattern there to get. We'll just have to see what we say.
Yeah, we'll
So
figure it
anyway,
out.
as getting off track here. So when we talk about the brow chakra, is there anything else that we need to touch base on what it does? Like, is there?
Well, I think metaphysically speaking, if we have migraines, headaches, sinus infections, all things that would affect this area. I don't think
Mhm.
we touched on that, but
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I'd have to say the the migraine thing tracks for me for sure. Um,
mm,
and I find that things like certain anxieties can happen in this brow chakra. I want to
mhm.
reference my oldest. Um, she was telling when we were having a discussion about anxiety one day. It had just come off of a spin of anxiety that my little one had experienced, and her anxiety was always very much solar plexus because she felt like she was going to get sick. And I would say maybe even root chakra because she felt unsafe.
Mhm.
Whereas my oldest, she's like, mine's all in my head. She says it's all a mental pattern. So I feel like anxiety can really happen in here with that rumination and that overwhelming thought pattern that we get stuck in. Um, and I feel like things like, I know with my ADHD tendencies, that happens all up here. It is
Mhm.
purely in my head. I'm not so much, I guess I'm a little fidgety, and I know some people experience that on a very physical level, but mine is purely all in my head. And I
Mhm.
know that there is a large group of women around my age, and I guess spanning a decade around my age, that are finding out they have a tendency to lean into these ADHD symptoms they because it's happened all in their mind, and when we were kids that wasn't a thing, so we've learned to cope and mask, and now the mask is coming off and we're learning different ways how to deal with that rumination that comes up. Again, not a mental health professional, seek a
Right.
mental health professional for all of that, but that's just my own personal experience, so I feel like that shows up in the brow chakra as well.
Absolutely. So I have to take a little nod from you. We finally got to see Inside Out 2 this weekend. Our granddaughter came and I was like, yes, we can watch it now. And, I thought about the things that you have brought up about it. And Disney is not a healthcare professional. Let's just put that out there. But when anxiety was introduced, it was so maybe foreign to me to watch and see how much anxiety thought they were helpful and
Yeah.
fear thought they were helpful. And I was like, wow, this is really messed up. And I also like to see too the different people when you see their committee in the head, who is running the show for each different person and how it's different. Like the little girl was Joy was leading and the mother anxiety was leading. And I was like, look how interesting this is.
Yeah, I love that. We actually watched it again this weekend. And I feel like they do a great job at recognizing that our anxiety's intentions are there to protect us.
Yeah.
It's there for a purpose.
Hmm.
And that kind of leads into that whole safety and stability. So if we're trapped in these anxious thoughts, then if we can get ourselves to ground our root chakra and find that safety and stability, we take the energy that's trapped up here, stretch it out and balance it out. And
Hmm.
yeah. And I love how, like, I felt like the first one in that movie did really great at showing us that all of our emotions have a purpose. And then the
Yeah.
second one did such a good job at showing that our emotions don't decide who we are. And that it
Hmm.
was all about helping anxiety know that she can't control Riley and she can't decide who Riley is. But in turn, it becomes joy or anxiety don't get to decide who Riley is. And I was just like, I don't know, I could go off on that movie so often.
Well, that and this goes back to everyone, every chakra, every character needs to do their job because it takes a little bit of everybody to create the whole. So that's why it's so important to have all the chakras balanced.
Absolutely. And I think you bring
Mhm.
up a good point because I feel like people really get the brow chakra. I feel like people really get stuck in the brow chakra. And I guess one of the characteristics of the brow chakra would be intellect and that knowledge and logic. And I feel like sometimes we get so stuck in processing things logically and intellectually that we forget to allow our heart into the game. And
Right.
I know I've shared this in our podcast in the past, but I feel like it really deserves stating in this podcast as well. Um, we have a tendency to maintain this low level fight or flight. We just need to get through the day. We just need to get through the week. We just need to get through the month. I just need to survive the day. And we don't slow down and allow these energies to incorporate or liberate from our system. And when we do that too long, we shut down our heart. We talked about that in our heart and our solar. But when we shut down our heart, often our solar plexus and our brow chakra try to take over. Like you said, they work together.
Mhm.
However, they're not built to do that long term. And I feel like that's where we get stuck in our head and we start trying to process things intellectually and logically when sometimes we have to feel it from our heart. And I feel like there's some of that work that we do with finding that safety and stability, slowing down and learning to listen to our heart is also helping us balance our brow chakra.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that kind of leans into what our kids did this weekend and what they were telling me. They read my cards every time they come, and I love it most of the time. And they kept telling me, you need to get out of your head. You're in your head too much lately, and you need to feel more than you think. And I'm like, you're right. You're absolutely right. I have been
Yep.
in a headspace.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's the image that keeps coming to my mind is just being stuck in our head, and there's so much
And we
energy
try
of
to
fear.
figure out logically, but really we need to feel what we need. Our bodies are very good at telling us what we need. Look
Hmm.
at today. I wore heart chakra colors without even realizing it until we started
See?
talking about it.
Perfect. I love it.
Mhm.
So when you think about your brow chakra, what is the one thing you feel your brow chakra does for you?
Um, that it's I don't know. I don't know the word for it. I love the hits I get that I need to act on. So I don't know if I mentioned it in this podcast. I think I did, but I'm not sure. Um, when my family was meeting at another family member's house for a Christmas time celebration, and I got a flash of a flat tire, and I knew our son was going to get a flat tire. So I called and I didn't say, I think you're going to get a flat tire because I don't want to freak anybody out. But I said, oh, it's very cold. Make sure you have extra snacks and, extra coats and wear because it's really cold outside. And I just tried to prepare them the best I could. So I do, as much as I didn't like that scenario, I liked that I had that warning beforehand. When I really tune in and I listen to my intuition, I do get warnings like that that prove to be helpful for myself, for other people, and I really appreciate that part.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's one of the things that people are intrigued by within their brow chakra and also are a little freaked out by.
Yeah, because
And
you can say, oh, I don't believe that's just my imagination. But it did happen. We got halfway to the house and I got a text message and a picture of a flat tire. And it did happen. I don't know if it always happens because we don't always have that validation, but I assume it does. And I just go with my intuition. But a lot of people fear that.
and can we I want to chat about that just for a minute because I feel like those kind of intuitive knowings come with a little bit of responsibility. Like
Mhm.
you said, you didn't message him and be like, listen, this is going to happen. You guys need to be careful. You didn't create a sense of fear with that.
Right.
And you didn't lean into the notion of, I am all powerful. I'm controlling what happens here. You acknowledged it. You sent a little notion to them, saying, hey, be prepared. And then you went on your way. And that was
Mhm.
beautiful. And I feel like sometimes this can trip our ego into
Yeah.
thinking that either A, we're all powerful and we're controlling these scenarios, or B, that we have to share these, or C, that it shifts the other direction and goes into a sense of fear like, oof, I'm too afraid. I don't want any of this. Get rid of it all. Does that make sense?
Right. I and I can't speak for everyone. For me, what's happened and what's come to me, I am able to do something about. Like people who foresee happenings in the world, who they feel like, they're overwhelmed and they have no power in this. I don't know how to handle that. I feel for them because that's I guess a bigger responsibility than what I have. But what comes for me is usual, but that's also a boundary I have. Don't show me anything unless there's something I can do about it.
And yes, exactly. We can set our intentions for what we are
Mhm.
experiencing energetically and spiritually. And I think this also leans into becoming empowered as an empath. You also can be empowered with your intuition and not
Mhm.
use it as a crutch to be a victim to it.
Right.
And finding that, you know what, I'm setting my boundaries and I don't want to bring this on and I don't want to experience this, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like those more larger premonitions, I think that's where things like Reiki and prayer and what have you kind of some more of those crown chakra activities come into play because no, you may not be able to change it on a grand scale, but you can send energy towards it. You can send light, you can send security, whatever that is, through those practices like Reiki or prayer or whatever your celebration of that is. So I think,
Very
yeah,
much
I
so.
think that we get to set our boundaries. So I guess maybe some boundary setting happens in the brow too.
We always have a choice,
Yep.
always. Mhm.
Um, I feel like intention, I feel like the brow and the throat work well together, and the fact that we have these intentions that are born in our head and then we share them out in the world through our throat. But I feel like intention work is a really powerful activity for the brow chakra and authentic intention work, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. We've come up with that notion of toxic positivity within previous episodes, I think, in that notion that sometimes if it's only, I guess the way I'm going to describe it is if you have a thought and we have a high vibrational thought. So these, the highest thoughts and the best outcomes are up here, yet your emotions are down here in
Mhm.
a very deep fear-based situation. These are going to feel fake. So
Mhm.
the, to me, I identify toxic positivity is when these feel fake and that's the only thing that's being focused on.
Mhm.
So for me, that more authentic intention is finding those intentions in between that help me climb the steps to that higher thought. So instead of I am, often people talk about abundance, so we'll address that for a minute. I am fully solidly abundant and have millions of dollars in my bank account and I'm solidly abundant. And then you have this fear of lack that's happening down here. This doesn't feel authentic. So
Right.
maybe we start off with I have, acknowledging what you have in your day to day and celebrating the little abundances that are in your today, day to day. And it creates a stepping stone to get to that higher thought. So I feel like some of that authentic intention and authentic gratitude and sorting that out happens in the brow chakra.
Do you feel like that fake it till you make it has a place in that? Because that's what I keep thinking of. And I have such a trigger on that fake it till you make it.
I was going, so in one of our future projects, I came across something that we had shared together at one point in time. Instead of fake it till you make it, imagine it until you make
It's so
it.
funny. I wrote imagine it till you create it above it. Apparently I remembered that without remembering that.
Right. And I don't know, like I feel like there's a little place for that fake it till you make it. Like
I like the
I,
living as if.
yep.
I don't like fake it till you make it.
I don't like it if it sacrifices your authentic notions and if it covers up what you're feeling authentically.
Mhm.
So, for example, for me, if I'm leaving the house heading to work and I'm in a more anxious, maybe it was an overwhelming morning or maybe I'm frustrated or maybe I'm snarky, I can't just flip the switch and be in a positive, open light, which I think is
Right.
why half the time I have to drive 40 minutes to work because I
Mhm.
leave the house and initially when I turn on that maybe root chakra music to ground my energy or I turn on something to help lift and give me some more positive connection, it might feel a little bit like faking it, but then allowing my authentic feelings allows me to shift it.
I
Does
don't
that
think
make sense?
that's faking it. I think that you are tending to yourself and tending to your energy. So you're putting on that music because that's what you know is going to bring you to a better place, a more balanced place. I don't think that's faking it at all.
So then that comes to the idea that maybe that intention, fake it till you make it, used to be a way to give us permission to tend to our energy. And now that we have moved into a space where so many people are living more authentically, that intention no longer fits where we are because we've
Mhm.
expanded and become more, I'm going to say multidimensional.
Mhm.
And we now, it's not that idea of being fake feels fake. So we want to change that wording to honor where we are currently.
I like that.
Very cool. Um, so I kind of feel the need to talk a little bit about imagination a little bit more because that goes into that whole see it and believing it. Like visualization um, comes into play here. And I find that I know in my meditative work, that imagination and that ability to visualize things really is a key component to what I do personally and what I encourage people to do within their work in my space. And I feel like being able to visualize, for instance, if we are coming up against something, if we have this pattern of thought and this pattern of emotion that's coming up and we keep hitting it in life, okay, let's visualize it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? If it was a person, what would they be saying to you? And I feel like a lot of that visual leans into that imagination too.
For sure. And I feel like trust and faith have a big element in that as well. That whole
Yep.
being the co-creator of your life and being able to imagine what you want moving forward and putting that detail into it and putting that trust behind it.
So then would you feel like trust is a more positive experience people have in their brow chakra, whereas that second guessing of your thoughts and your intentions and okay, let me follow this for a minute.
Go
So
for it.
we have these notions of trust in our brow, and we also have some of our intuition, more of that visualization intuition and clairvoyance intuition in our brow chakra. We also have a little of that instinctive intuition in our ego. So is that trust what takes that instinctive intuition and levels it up to a higher vibration so that we can be more clear on it? Whereas if we're not trusting our intuition, we're not trusting what's happening in our mind, then it takes it down to, am I worthy? Am I capable? Which then, okay, send it back down to the solar. Let's work with building that confidence there so that we can be more clear in our brow.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a whole lot of sense because when we were talking about solar plexus, we talked about those messages being sent to that. And that's where we stay or go, yes or no. That's where the decisions are made. So, yeah,
Mm,
I mean, that would make a whole lot of sense.
I love that connection between the two.
Mhm.
So when we work on that solar plexus, we can be more clear. It like offers a foundation of clarity as we move up through.
And if we were completely aligned, then the heart would have a say in that as well. And it would feel authentic to the soul. Yes, they're all connected.
Very cool.
Mhm.
So, how are some ways that you work with either you or you offer as a professional to work with the brow?
Well, I just finished my Access Your Intuition course. It's an online course, and I give practices throughout for 21 days, different practices to work on your intuition. But myself personally, I like to stick with my stronger Claire. I like to develop the others, but I like to also stick with the stronger one so I get the messages good and clear. So for me, as much as meditation is difficult for me to commit to all the time, listening, I'm always trying to listen. So if I'm doing listening practices here where I'm just seeing what comes to me, or I have music on and I'm trying to pinpoint one instrument and listen, I'm just trying to fine tune the listening all the time so that when intuition comes to me, that's stronger. If that makes sense.
Okay, that does. And I love how, because I always put listening in the throat chakra,
Mhm.
but that notion of having that foundation in the throat helps support that brow to be able to make connect with that clairvoyance as it comes in. And
Mhm.
I guess that ears, they kind of do live between the two. So I love that. I love that. Um, for me, I'd have to say mine is imagination and that visualization,
Mhm.
intuition. Um, Having a space, I'd have to say that's the one thing that I lean into most for me personally is going on a visual journey or leaning into let's make sense of this picture. But I find myself actually recently, now that I've said that, leaning a little bit more into the intention work. Um, Before we got on here, I was feeling those Monday blues. I was really kind of that gray Monday, having to get myself out of my own And
Mhm.
I found myself when I first sat down to meditate, because I'm a big fan of visualization and meditation and all that, that it wasn't quite getting there for me this morning. So I set my intention and burned my herbs to clear myself and my space. And then I actually went through an EFT tapping round and set the intention of what I actually was feeling and gave my permission to shift that into a more higher vibrational intention. And that intention work really helped to shift that mental pattern so that I can then be more balanced and clear for our work today. So as much as that visualization and imagination are a big part of my work, I have found that that notion of that intention work has become authentic intention work has become much more powerful for me personally. Um, and I guess professionally, I definitely lean into the guided visual journeys and the guided meditations and what have you, and helping people. I love to be able to introduce somebody to their own imagination and to be
Mhm.
like, okay, what do you see? What do you feel? What do you know? And being able to have that multi-sensory experience within their imagination. And so often in guided meditations, people are like, well, this doesn't make sense. I'm like, share anything. It's okay. There's no wrong answer here. And you're
Mhm.
like, this doesn't make sense. I had this. I don't know why I saw this, but and then almost every single time we're able to be like, well, I'll share, well, it feels like maybe this, and what's this feel behind it? And we take it from being just a weird quirk that their mind came up with to, okay, there's meaning behind it. Let's explore that. And I love introducing people to that notion of that childlike imagination and how we actually get to take it to our intuition. So I'd have to say
I
that's one
love
way
that. I
I
think
love
I
this.
can also add to piggyback on that a little bit is reminding people of their power,
Mhm.
empowering the people sitting in front of me, because I tell people all the time, every time I tell them something in a guidance reading, most of the time, they say, I knew that, or I was doing that, or I didn't, I didn't think that. And I say all the time, I'm just here to validate what you already know. So for them to hear that back and everything they were thinking and were feeling, and it is true because it's coming through in this reading, that I feel helps to empower them to trust their own intuition more so.
Yeah. So with that being said, do you feel like you've seen an influx lately of, I feel like there is a shift going from, okay, I'm going to find somebody to sit down and tell me what's happening and reaching for that external source of guidance, shifting into, I want to find somebody help me listen to that internal world and that internal guidance.
I hope
Um,
so.
right?
Right. Right now, I don't feel like one is outweighing the other very much, but I do feel in general a shift is happening towards that.
Right.
I feel that. My husband might not like the way I say it, but I feel that. But what I'm seeing in my business personally is kind of an even out right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And I guess I, yeah, I feel like I can see. I don't know why I needed both of those. Now I'm gonna question when I say that all day. Oh, okay, you froze for a minute. I feel like I can see a pattern where people are like, I want to learn to listen to that inner a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I feel like the brow chakra gets to be a gateway to connect us to that inner world and that trust, elevating
Mhm.
our that connection. Um, very cool. And some easy ways for people to balance the brow chakra. Again, for me, start playing brow chakra music. But I do believe, and I feel like I really need to stress this, often when you're balancing your brow chakra, the need to be grounded is so important. We talked earlier about feeling like there was a bunch of energy in that brow chakra when we were referencing that some of that ADHD energy that shows up in our life. But I feel like in general, if we are going to be working with our brow chakra, it's important to create that safety and stability in our body first, to create that presence within our body first. Because if we only do intuition, then all of this stuff down here, these fears and the emotions, is going to find a way out and it's going to influence that connection with that mental clarity. So allowing that grounded energy feels like it lengthens our energy so that it can flow more freely. So
I
I
love
feel like having that grounded root chakra, like a root chakra playlist and a brow chakra playlist combined together, sounds kind of cool to me today.
Mhm. I feel like prayer, meditation, stillness, quietness, being in the moment. Those all feel right to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What are some of your favorite brow chakra stones?
Oh, well, yeah, I use amethyst for everything. That's a good one. So
Yep,
that's my favorite,
absolutely.
and that's my go-to all the time. I do think I'm gonna mispronounce this, that lapis lazuli. Is it lazuli?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't think I have one here. This is sodalite, I think, but yes, I have
I don't
two
think I
large
have it near me
chunks.
either.
Um, I might have, I don't know if you can see this, but the beads within this necklace are the
Mhm.
lapis. So
Yes.
it's kind of that cobalt blue with flecks of gold in it. I have two
Mhm.
large chunks at the office, and that is one stone that I never connected with. Like when way back when I first started doing some jewelry work, like I never connected to that stone, so I would never invest in it because it didn't make sense as to where it fit for me.
Mhm.
And but I would have people ask for that all the time. And that was one of the things that it was that inner truth, listening to that inner voice, listening to that inner guidance. So that whole brow chakra, it felt like it landed there well.
Mhm.
Um, I'd have to say one of mine for this, of course, is amethyst. And like you said, the lapis. Um, fluorite is one that I lean into a lot within this brow chakra because I lean into that when I want to have more clear thought. I want to keep things positive and I want to have more order within this energy here. I will lean into that fluorite often. And they say that fluorite is the student stone. So, like when you're working on learning something or bringing in information, it's a good one to hang on to. Also, if I can reach it, labradorite feels like a stone that's for the brow chakra. And I have a good friend of mine that sent me this beautiful necklace. And that pendant I'll often wear when I'm doing some more intuitive work with others. So those are the stones that I lean into for it.
Nice. But again,
Um,
I feel like it's all about intention and whatever
yep,
stone feels good to you.
yep. And I'd have to say one of them that I've leaned into use with my brow chakra specifically is that hawk's eye.
Oh,
We
I
did
love
some
that
work.
now.
Yeah, right. I like this one because it has confidence and kind of leans into that solar, but also that brow. So I've worn that one a lot. Um, very cool. Any other thoughts or notions that we need to touch base on with the brow chakra?
I don't think so. I think we hit everything we talked about hitting.
Very cool. So, shall we draw some cards?
Yeah, this time I'll play with you. Last time I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know why. I had to speak my truth.
That's okay. I love it. I'm gonna. If you have, do you have something there where you can go first?
Oh yeah, I had them in my hand the whole time. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not sure exactly which ones I want to use, so I'm gonna let you go first.
All right. So I have cartomancy again. They're just regular playing cards in my hand. I like them for direct questions, give you direct answers, and cartomancy is very forward in their answers. That's why I like it. So I'm just asking, what is it we most need to know about the brow chakra? Ooh. I need to pull two more now. Okay.
See, look at the
So
pattern. Waiting for the
yeah,
pattern.
it started with the Nine of Hearts came out. And the Nine of Hearts, for those of you who know me and have cartomancy readings with me, is the best card in the deck. It's about abundance in all areas, happiness in all areas, satisfaction, dreams coming true, a great time to start anything. So I just feel like that supports everything we said. Then the lover and father card came up, and I just feel like that's saying if we're nurturing those things that we feel are abundance in our lives and we want to bring more into our lives, that's what it's going to take to happen. But then the Ace of Spades came up, which is the challenge in all areas card. So I feel like this is where our faith and our trust are challenged, and our knowing of, yes, we are the co-creators of our own life, and yes, we do have this power and we can set these intentions and it coming true. So that's where I wanted to pull the two more cards. Three of Clubs came up, which is all about knowledge, doors opening, dreams coming true, going forward. So you just have to know that you have this power. And then the Seven of Diamonds, which is success if it's for the highest and greatest good. So I think it just, as always, cartomancy just validates what we have said throughout the podcast anyway.
Absolutely. I love that notion that honoring that inner truth and that inner knowing and nurturing that and what feels loving and positive and abundance in your own life, even in the face of challenge, is a strong step forward. I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
And I appreciate that on this Monday. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You are welcome.
I'm actually having my hands the Caroline Miss deck, and it's the archetype deck from her. And there's a part of me that's like, I don't want to use this one, but then there's a part of me that's like, yes, this is the one we have to use. So we'll see what comes up. But on these cards, just to let everybody know, archetypes are like spiritual personalities or spiritual patterns that show up in our life. And they're meant to, I feel like they're the harbingers, feels like a not so pleasant word, but I feel like they're the escorts of our life lessons. Often these patterns in energy show up in our life carrying certain lessons and certain things that we get to be aware of. And they feel like they're neutral. They have shadow attributes and they have light attributes, and we get to learn from both of those. So that's kind of what I use this deck for. And yeah, let's see what comes up. And I'm asking actually, what do we need to know as we lean into this brow chakra work? Like, what do we need to know for our mental and more intuitive self currently and as we move forward? Also, random question, why do I get stuffy every time I do intuitive work? Anytime
It's
I'm
there.
doing like,
I just said to you, the that chakra is your sinuses.
yeah, I guess so. Because, oh, see, something's flinging out at me. Every time I do intuitive work or classes or lean into that kind of knowledge-based stuff, I just get stuffy. Okay. So the card that actually flew out as I was shuffling is the mediator. And the light attribute says there's gifts of negotiating fairness and strategy in personal and professional life, respect for both sides of the argument. And the shadow attribute is negotiating with an ulterior motive or hidden agenda, either personally or professionally. So I feel like this card really encourages us to honor our truth. And that notion of we get to be the mediators of our thoughts, of our intentions, and of what our truth is. And we get to, like, you can look at her. She very much is wearing a brow chakra color, that indigo, which I don't think we touched on. The color of the brow chakra is more of that indigo blue with a little bit of violet to it. And that notion that even though we feel we may be stuck in this duality, whether it's happening externally or whether it's happening internally, that it's a call for us to go within and to mediate what our intentions, our thoughts, and our truth is. And like Danielle said, lean into that and know that that gets to take up space in our life. But first, it has to take up space within us, and we have to know what our truth is. And we get to embrace those more positive notions and what feels authentically supportive to us. And we get to question that more negative notions, those fear-based notions. And if these fear-based notions are bubbling up in a loud way these days, that we get to lean into more of that positive, more nurturing, authentic energy and mediate some of that fear that's bubbling up versus I'm always one to, all of our emotions get to take up space and are there for a reason. And at the same time, when we allow those more negative, shadowy emotions to take up too much space, we then end up feeling like those negative emotions are our truth. And as we learn from Inside Out, it's not so much that they're our truth, but an experience we are having. And we get to be the person that decides how we mediate that energy. And instead of fueling those fears, nurture them, let them know that we're safe, let them know that you can sit down and you can chill out and take a breath, and allow some of that more positive, supportive energy to show up in your life. And I don't know if that's, I guess maybe that connects to the brow chakra because that all starts in our mind and it all
Mhm.
starts with our intention. And it all starts with those little seeds that plant the more positive intentions in our life. And then that gets to influence it, our inner world and our truth. So there we go.
That was beautiful. I can't even put anything onto that. That was perfectly said.
This deck, man, I lean into it. And there's times where I'm like, I don't know if that's going to make sense. And then every time it's like, okay, I'm calling you to the table of the work. So
There it is.
very cool. Um, so is there anything you want to share that you're working on currently?
I think that I think I did it last time too, but I will just again let people know that the new services that I offer for pets. I mean, I do readings with pets, so I have connected pets who have passed over or animals who have passed over, but have recently started with the Reiki and the bereavement um, sessions for pets. So that is all on my website now. I have updated my website, thanks to
Yay!
you. And
Thanks to you. You did it all. That was cool.
I did,
Congratulations.
but you gave me that push, saying, is it there? Can I connect a link to it? I'm like,
Very cool.
no, I'm so much better on this side of the desk than the
Yeah.
technical side of the desk.
So we are going to put in the show notes the link to that new page that she created. So nothing else, go click on that link and celebrate with Danielle her ability to create that page.
Thank
Um,
you.
very cool. Um, did I cut you off? Did you share everything you wanted to share?
No, you're good.
Okay. I guess for me, I'm gonna highlight the notion of that one-on-one session with clients. I think there's something beautiful that's happening in a lot of my sessions with clients recently is it gets to be a space where we get to connect with your truth and we give space for your truth at this time and we get to move through some of that more shadowy experience to lean into and find that more positive experience and hopefully offer you a couple of tools with how to nurture that. And I think now more than ever, people that lean into those empathic tendencies need space to help to figure out those tools that support them. So I'm going to highlight that one-on-one session, and we can do a mini session, which is more maintenance, and we can do more of an hour session or a 90-minute session. And I can offer those sessions in person in Penn, New York, virtually, as well as now moving forward, I'm going to be able to offer those a couple of times a month in Newark. So Wayne County, Yates County, any of those counties in between, we can figure out a way to get you covered in upstate New York. So, and if you're not in New York at all, let's meet virtually. People are like, this stuff, it doesn't work virtually. Yes, we can make it work virtually. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, so that's what I'm highlighting today. We are excited to keep going on this journey with you. Within the next week, maybe week and a half or more, depending on when we can schedule it, we're going to journey through the brow chakra, and that will be the last in this series of 8. I want to take a moment, Danielle, to say thank you for being here with me through this. I have truly, authentically enjoyed these conversations and have grown as an individual simply through these now 7 conversations that we've had, and I'm excited to lean into the crown. So
I love it. The same. Thank you. Thank you for having me
very
here. We
cool.
always have these great conversations, and you are fabulous at pushing us to bring them out to the world. So,
Very cool. Very cool. And continue to have conversations in your life. Honor your uniquely beautiful self and allow space for this authentic truth.